I never imagined an undercover CEO would change a single mom's life forever. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension. My hands trembled as I sat at the dining table, staring blankly at the stack of bills. The light filtering through the cheap blinds cast long shadows, mimicking the weight pressing down on my chest. I was drowning in despair, struggling to keep my head above water. That morning started like any other. My son, Jake, was busy trying to fix his breakfast, a battle with the toaster that left crumbs everywhere. His laughter filled the room, sweet and innocent, a stark contrast to my heavy heart. How could I let him down? The thought crushed me. I glanced at the clock. Time was running out. I was invisible at that moment, a shadow in my own house. I pulled out my phone, hesitating, scrolling through messages of support that had become few and far between. My mother was sick, my friends were busy, and the job I had relied on for stability slipped further away. The echoes of my past failures whispered in my ear, clawing at me: accidents, lost opportunities, a divorce that shattered my world. It was overwhelming. Then the doorbell rang, echoing hauntingly in the silence. I opened the door to find a tall figure, dressed sharply in a suit that screamed power. The contrast was startling against the backdrop of my chaotic life. "Hello, I'm Max. I'm interested in your business," he said, his voice smooth yet urgent. I squinted at him, confusion clouding my mind. Who was this man? With just a few words, he somehow sensed my struggle. I felt hope flicker inside me, a fragile flame in the wind. Did he really care? Or was he just a salesperson? His eyes held a glimmer of determination and understanding I had rarely seen. My heart raced, my thoughts scattered like leaves in a storm. "Things aren't what they seem," he said, that glint in his eye growing sharper. I leaned in, curiosity replacing my fear. How could a stranger bring potential into my dreary life? The secrets wrapped around him felt heavy, like a burden waiting to be unveiled. As we spoke, the silence between us thickened, filled with unspoken truths. I could taste the tension, bitter and sweet. My phone buzzed, a reminder of my mounting troubles, but I ignored it. Was this the miracle I'd been desperate for? Or would it be just another disappointment? But then I noticed something odd. Behind him, reflective glass glinted, revealing silhouettes of others watching, waiting. Anxiety prickled at the back of my mind. Who were they? Attention turned into confusion. Why were they here? The air crackled. "Trust me," Max said, his voice a steady anchor amidst the turmoil swirling around us. A lump formed in my throat. Trust was a dangerous game for someone like me. What did he really want? My heart raced, thumping against my ribcage as I searched his face. If only I knew the truth. There had to be more to his story, a missing piece that could either save me or bury me deeper. The stakes were too high, and the eyes watching us only intensified my unease. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The glimmer of hope faltered, dimmed by the shadows gathering around me. I studied Max's face, desperately searching for a beacon of honesty amid the growing fog of confusion. He took a step closer, his presence filling the doorway like a lighthouse in a storm, though doubt nodded my insides. "Listen," he said, urgency punctuating his words. "I know you might not trust me. I can't tell you everything right now, but let me help you. There's potential in what you created." I see a dot. I could only nod, the words tantamount to a leap of faith. My heart thudded heavily in my chest, and as much as I wanted to succumb to that fleeting flicker of hope, reality loomed large and oppressive. This couldn't be real. Someone with his polished veneer couldn't possibly want to dig into the wreckage of my life without some ulterior motive. Behind him, the silhouettes in the glass shifted, and an uncomfortable prickling sensation crept down my spine. Why were they watching? Part of me longed to close the door, to retreat back to the safety of my cluttered home and the warmth of my son's laughter. Yet, there was an alluring pull that I found hard to resist. "What do you even know about my business?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I know it's struggling, but I also know that it has a community around it, people who care and would support you if they only had the chance to see the true vision." There was a pause, and his eyes flickered with an emotion I couldn't quite place. "It can be bigger than you ever imagined, but you need a different approach." The softness in his voice wrapped around me like a warm blanket, but my skepticism refused to melt away. The world had taught me to be cautious, to guard my heart against the promise of false hope. "And why would you care?" I pressed, a heavy lump still lodged in my throat. He hesitated, the genuine desire to help flickering in his eyes. "Because I know what it's like to struggle. I used to face my own demons, and I wouldn't wish that life on anyone." For a moment, I saw a glimpse of vulnerability that transformed the stranger before me. I thought of my own demons, the guilt over Jake's childhood being tainted by my failures, the suffocating isolation, and the fear that I might fail him again. "What's your story?" Max's expression shifted, a fleeting shadow crossing his features. "Let's just say I've been given a second chance. It's time I paid it forward." Beyond him, the watchers shifted again, their presence becoming more palpable. I felt the weight of their gazes, a mix of curiosity and perhaps expectation, press heavily upon me. "Can you guarantee it won't end in disappointment?" I finally asked, my voice faltering. "I can't guarantee anything, but what I can promise is my full commitment to show you what's possible." Absently, I thought of my mother's hospital bills, and the mounting groceries that had begun to feel like an anchor pulling me under. "And what do you get out of it?" A bitter edge crept into my tone, a reflex born from years of hardship and betrayal. "I'm not here for profit. I'm here because I believe in you," he said, earnestness wrinkling the corners of his mouth. "But you need to be ready to take a leap." I glanced back at Jake, blissfully ignorant, his laughter spilling through the kitchen. I wanted desperately to shield him from my burdens, to create a better world than the one I had. But how could I do that when I was tethered to the very ground that threatened to swallow me whole? Before I could respond, the door creaked, a figure emerging from the shadows behind Max. The atmosphere shifted, the walls of the doorway became an unwelcoming barrier to my thoughts. It was a woman, slight of build but fierce in presence, with dark eyes that seemed to pull me in. "Penny, we don't have much time," she said, her voice urgent but steady. "We need to move." Before the tension in the air thickened as a realization dawned on me. The silhouettes weren't just bystanders, they were part of something larger, something that was crawling into my world without my consent. "What's going on?" I stumbled backward, the room spinning with confusion. Max stepped forward, his demeanor shifting to one of resolve. "They're here for your protection, and they're not going to take no for an answer." My heart raced, panic rising. What kind of rabbit hole had I just stumbled into? Protection from what? The woman, already sensing my fear, intervened before Max could respond. "From what's happening in your business. Things are about to change, and we need to ensure you're safe." The weight of her words dropped like stones in my stomach. I had been struggling against the tide of my life, and now I was standing on the precipice of something that felt far more dangerous than I could fathom. I felt my footing slip, where hope and fear collided, leaving me teetering on the edge. "How can I trust any of you?" I barely managed to whisper, torn between the urge to lock the door to my heart and the dawning realization that I might not have a choice in the matter. In that swirling moment of uncertainty, a single thought pressed against my mind as forcefully as a thunderclap. What if this time, the storm didn't just drown, might offer a chance to rise? But as the shadows loomed closer, the line between salvation and calamity blurred, and I was left hanging, suspended in a heart-stopping uncertainty, wondering what choices I still had left to make. As the weight of uncertainty hung in the air, I could feel the world closing in around me. Max stood firm, a pillar of confidence amidst the encroaching chaos, while the woman behind him, silent force with an intensity that sent shivers crawling down my spine, seemed to sense my unraveling. Anxiety churned in my chest like a storm, and panic threatened to swallow me whole. "Penny, listen to me," Max urged, his voice steady yet imbued with an urgency that struck me as genuine. "You need to know that whatever is coming, we're here to ensure you and Jake are protected. We need your trust, even if it feels impossible right now." I shut my eyes, willing the swirl of emotions to settle, hopelessness clawing at the edges of my resolve. The shadows gathered, but a small part of me was desperate for a lifeline, and the look of earnest concern in Max's eyes stirred something deep within. Memories of sleepless nights spent worrying about bills and the fresh ink of reality's burden shuttered my hope. Yet here they were, offering something that resembled salvation or, at the very least, a respite from the storm. "What do you need me to do?" The words fell from my lips without forethought, driven by a blend of instinctual self-preservation and the flickering embers of hope. Max nodded, opening a small notebook he had tucked under his arm. "We need to gather your community. You have supporters who care about the vision you shared, but they don't know about the crisis you're facing. We can turn this around together." As he spoke, I saw Jake peeking around the corner, his innocent eyes searching for reassurance. My heart twisted at the thought of dragging my son into a world of complexities and danger. What if they don't want to help? I fought back the sentiment that threatened to rear its head, always the cynic, craving proof of sincerity. "They will want to help because they believe in you," the woman interjected, her voice soothing amidst the chaos. "You've created something valuable. It's time to show them where you stand." With that, an unexpected flicker of determination ignited within me. I thought about the late nights spent poring over projects, the joy I felt when my little craft line took off, and the sense of community that swelled in moments of shared laughter at local markets. Those moments of connection, I couldn't let them fade into the background of my fears. "Okay, let's do it," I replied, sounding stronger than I felt. The words tasted like defiance, a small, rebellious glimmer flickering in a dark room. Max moved quickly, jotting down details and setting plans into motion, while the woman Isla, ID learned, stood firm, radiating an energy of calm conviction. The hushed fervor turned to focus, and I found solace in the sudden flurry of activity. Then a shrill sound pierced through the air. My phone vibrated violently against the table. I snatched it up, a sinking feeling coiling in my belly as I saw her name flashing across the screen. My mother. "Hey, Mom," I answered, bracing myself for the unexpected tides of emotion that surged through me. The urgency in her voice washed over me like icy water. "Penny, listen, something's not right," she rasped, her words strained and hurried. "A man came by the hospital today asking about your business. He seemed intimidating. I didn't want to alarm you, but you need to be careful." My heart raced as the room around me blurred. The edges of Isla and Max's conversation softened as I anchored myself to my mother's worries, feeling her emotion flood through. "What did he say?" "Just that he thought you might be in trouble." I didn't think much of it at first, but then I got this strange feeling. "Please take care of yourself." "I will," I promised, though anxiety tightened its grip, squeezing the words from my throat. I hung up, breathless. My mom just got a warning. "Someone came to see her, was looking for me," I stammered, my pulse quickening with each word like a metronome marking the frantic pace of my heart. The immediate tension in the room thickened, excitement darkened by looming shadows. Max's expression morphed slightly. Resolve set in the lines of his jaw. "It's worse than I thought," he murmured, pulling Isla closer to him as he made a decisive gesture towards the door. "We have to move now." A mixture of dread and adrenaline surged through me. I had jumped into a torrent that was far deeper than I could comprehend, but somehow, I felt a small pool of courageous hope bloom in the midst of the chaos. We were in this together, and though I didn't fully understand it, I could feel the unresolved threads of my life tugging tighter. The need to protect Jake surged within me, a weighty reminder that far more than my dreams were at stake. "Mom, wait. If they're after my business, how do I protect Jake?" I called, the fear lending steel to my voice. Isla met my gaze, the intensity deep in her eyes flickering like caution lights. "Together. But we need to keep moving." My heart swelled, fear and resilience boiling in equal parts. "Then what are we waiting for?" As I stepped towards the door, a foreboding sensation washed over me, like stepping into a storm where the outcome felt uncertain but compelling in its promise of change. Little did I know, the dangers of what lay ahead would stretch far beyond business concerns. Buried truths were ready to surface. But for Jake's sake, I would face it all, no matter how daunting the shadows around us became. With one last look behind me, I caught a glimpse of my son, his joyful laughter a stark contrast to the escalating tension was a fleeting vision that clung desperately, reminding me it was all for him. The urgency in Isla's eyes redirected my focus once again. "Let's move." And as the door shut behind us, I wasn't sure if this was the start of my salvation or the plunge into even darker waters, but I was willing to find out. As we stepped out, the cool air hit my face like a splash of cold water, snapping me awake. Every sound seemed amplified, the crunch of gravel underfoot, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves whispering secrets as we moved. My heart raced, pushing me forward with a mix of urgency and fear. I still held on to that flicker of hope, but it felt tiny and fragile against the looming shadows threatening to engulf us. Max led the way with a determined stride, a silent promise etched into the lines of his face. Isla followed close behind, tension radiating from her, but her presence was a comforting reminder that I was not alone. With each step, we wove through familiar streets now tinged with uncertainty, a part of me carefully noting every landmark, as if trying to hold on to the fabric of my life. Jake walked beside me, holding my hand tightly, blissfully unaware of the storm that threatened to break just above us. His little fingers were warm and grounding, and I stole glances at him, silently assuring myself that I was doing this for him, that what lay ahead was the path to security and safety for his future. After a few blocks, we arrived at the eclectic cafe that had served as the heart of our community. It buzzed with the chatter of regulars, laughter spilling out into the street. Before, I would have found comfort in the familiarity of its vibrant colors and cheerful decor, but now it felt like entering a battleground. I could almost hear the people inside call my name, "Penny, come back." But there was no turning back now. Max turned to me, his brow furrowed. "This place is secure for now. We set up an impromptu meeting with a few key supporters. They can help spread the word and protect what you've built, but we need your voice. Are you ready?" I swallowed hard, nodding even as doubt crept in. How would I face them, all the people who believed in me, knowing that danger was hot on my heels? Jake squeezed my hand tighter, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. "Mom, can I have a hot chocolate?" he asked, his voice sweetly innocent and hopeful. How could he be so carefree in a moment like this? I smiled softly, realizing that even amidst turmoil, small joys remained. "Sure, buddy. Let's grab a table first." As we entered the cafe, I was met with a wave of warmth, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around me like a blanket. Familiar faces turned to me, their expressions shifting from curiosity to concern. The barista, a kind woman named Lara who had watched Jake grow from a baby, rushed over a penny. "What's going on? You look pale." "Just a lot on my plate," I managed as I looked past her, searching for any potential threats in the corners. But there was also something else in the air beneath, the tension and undercurrent of loyalty and love that felt worth holding on to. Max gathered a small group at the large table in the corner where we settled in. I caught snippets of their conversations, voices rising with determination. They spoke of upcoming market events and potential partnerships, each suggestion a lifeline I desperately wanted to grasp. But even as I listened, my mind swirled with worry. "I am scared," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper as Isla leaned closer. She reached over, her eyes unwavering. "Fear can be a motivator, Penny. You've built an incredible community, and they will fight for you." Each face around the table turned to me, and even through my anxiety, I sensed their unwavering belief in me. It was intoxicating and terrifying all at once. What if they were thrust into the chaos along with me? "All right," I said, finally regaining my composure. "Let's brainstorm how we can protect my business together." But before my thoughts could settle, an abrupt movement at the cafe entrance drew my attention. The door slammed open, and in walked a figure that immediately stole the warmth from the room. He was tall, dressed in a dark suit that seemed to absorb the light, and his eyes darted around like a hunter searching for prey. My breath caught in my throat as he moved towards our table, and the air thickened with unspoken dread. "Penny Ainsworth," he said, his voice smooth yet demanding, chilling me to the bone. "We need to talk." A fear gripped me as the room froze, laughter silenced in mid-sentence. My heart raced, pounding in my ears. He wasn't just here to talk, he was here to deliver something else entirely. This man, this presence felt like an omen I had tried to outrun. "Who are you?" Max said, rising slightly from his seat, his protective stance evident. The man smirked, his gaze not faltering. "Let's just say I'm someone who can help you understand what's at stake. Unless, of course, you prefer a different outcome." My breath quickened, the reality of the situation crashing down like a wave. My community, my life, could it all be taken away in an instant? The flickering hope I was clinging to wavered, and the battle within me intensified, fueling every fear I'd ever had. As he stepped closer, the dim light caught the glint of something metallic in his pocket, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the challenge inscribed in his expression. I had wanted change, hadn't I? But at what cost? Choose your words wisely, Penny, he said, barely above a whisper, dripping with menace. This is only the beginning, and with that, I felt the ground beneath me shift. The fragile web I had begun to weave now felt like it was unraveling, and the stakes had never been higher. Desperation clenched at my chest as I realized that the fight for my business, for Jake, was morphing into something far more perilous than I had imagined. As he stood looming over my crumbling world, I couldn't help but wonder, was salvation even possible, or had I unknowingly stepped into the lion's den? The chill of that moment hung in the air like fog, heavy and suffocating. People at the cafe turned their heads, whispering among themselves, their smiles fading away, replaced by furrowed brows and a pervading sense of dread. I could feel Jake's fingers slipping from mine, sensing the tension weave through the room like an invisible thread. I knelt down beside him, forcing what I hoped was a reassuring smile onto my face. "Stay close, honey," I said softly, but the tremor in my voice betrayed my fear. The man in the suit stepped closer, an air of authority dripping from him as though he had walked off a page of a story that had never been mine. "I'm not your enemy, Penny. Or at least, I don't want to be." His eyes searched mine, momentarily revealing a fleeting glimmer of something else, perhaps understanding? But it vanished, leaving behind a stark reminder of my precarious situation. "Then why are you here?" My voice came out steadier than I felt, but I couldn't hide the flicker of rage that accompanied my desperation. "What do you want from me?" Max's arm brushed against mine as he stepped in front of me, his protective nature igniting with palpable intensity. "You'll have to excuse us if we don't trust you. You're an outsider here. And we don't take kindly to threats." The man simply chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "You're right. This is your turf. But I come with a message, a proposition." He leaned in closer, lowering his voice, gesturing toward the door where an ominous cloud loomed outside. "You're in danger, Penny. Your business is not just your livelihood. It's something far bigger now." Isla's brow knitted together as she edged closer to me, her expression a mix of concern and confusion. "What are you talking about?" He straightened, assessing the atmosphere of the cafe, noting the faces filled with disbelief and fear. "There are forces at play that you are unaware of. Your community is at stake, and unless you tread carefully, I fear you'll lose your business and worse." His gaze flicked back to me, almost pityingly. "It won't just affect you." A silence settled over us, thick and menacing. Each revelation punctured through the storm of fear, leaving me lightheaded. A wave of panic hit me, tighter than a noose around my throat. What could possibly be so significant about me? "I need answers," I demanded, desperate for clarity. "What does this have to do with my business? I'm just a single mom trying to keep my home." He sighed, a deep breath that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken burdens. "That's precisely why you're in the crosshairs, Penny. You hold something valuable, something others want to exploit. Your community's trust, legacy, it is not just built on coffee and pastries." I stared at him, feeling a rush of emotions ebb and flow. Was I really so significant? Did I have the power to reshape not only my world but also potentially something much larger? But that flickering hope was dimming under the uncertainty. I squeezed Jake's small, soft hand, anchoring myself in the reality of my life rather than getting lost in the nebulous dangers he was proclaiming. "What do you want from me?" I asked again, the steel returning to my voice, even as my heart raced. "Be the leader they think you are," he said, his gaze piercing. "Embrace what you've built. But you'll need help, and I can provide that. Trust me or not, the decision is yours. But if you don't act now, you may find yourself with nothing to protect." Max shifted restlessly beside me, still on high alert though his loyalty was palpable, as was the collective dread surrounding us. "We don't trust you. If you think you can just waltz in here and make demands, you've miscalculated." The man smiled coolly, unfazed by the threat. "I'm not asking for your trust, just your attention. This is bigger than you can fathom." Before any of us could respond, the cafe door swung wide open again, and an icy gust flowed in with another figure, a woman with a harried expression. "Penny! You have to leave. Now!" she shouted, her chest heaving, a contagion of urgency rippling through the room. Every head turned, shock echoing in the spaces between words. My heart sank as I looked at her, one of the regulars from our community, a woman I had shared countless moments with. What are you talking about? I demanded, panic pooling in my stomach. They are coming for you. She gasped, panic lacing her voice. I overheard them at the market. They know you're here, and they won't stop until they find you. Her words struck me like thunder, filling the air in moments before feeling inertia from my feet. The reality I wanted so badly to change turned into a nightmare, my future dissolving into chaos. The foundation of my life suddenly felt like quicksand, and I was drowning. Penny, Max said, urgency forcing his voice to stay steady. We need to get you and Jake out of here. Jake tugged at my sleeve, panic swirling in his innocent eyes. Mom, I don't want to leave. I want hot chocolate. Tears brimmed in my eyes as I crouched to his level. I know, sweetie. Just listen to me, we have to go. The man in the suit stood quietly, his expression inscrutable, a maestro of all the strife that unfolded around him. His presence became a tether, something dark, yet also oddly magnetic. He could be the answer to my fears, or the catalyst for something much worse. I hesitated, trying to gauge my instincts, trying to prioritize the well-being of my son against a backdrop of chaos crashing down around us. With adrenaline pumping in my veins, I made my choice. The door slammed shut behind us as I took Jake's hand and bolted, leaving my heart divided among the people I cared about and the weight of uncertainty still looming over us. As fear descended like a shroud, I clenched my jaw, determined to survive this tempest, even if it meant embracing a new alliance with the stranger in the suit. But my choice sliced through the air with sharp clarity. Nothing was going to be the same, and whatever awaited us was hiding just around the corner, a shade darker than I had anticipated. What awaited me outside these doors was the unknown, and even with my heart racing, I knew one undeniable truth: the entanglement had only just begun. The world outside felt different, as if the cafe door had birthed us into a separate reality. The tension loitered like the fog of the city, suffocating yet pregnant with possibility. The chill in the air was harsh against my skin, and the sounds of traffic felt louder, more invasive. I held Jake's hand tightly, my heart pounding in my chest, not just from fear but from a fervent desire to protect him at all costs. Where do we go now? I whispered, even as I mentally cursed myself for not having a plan. My instinct was to find safety, yet safety seemed a distant mirage constantly slipping from my grasp. Just follow my lead, Max replied, urgency lacing his voice. He glanced over his shoulder, eyes darting as though every passerby could be an agent of the chaos we had just escaped. Well, find a place to regroup. First, let's get somewhere less out in the open. We steered down a side street, the buildings closing in around us like guardians of our secrets. For a brief moment, I could hear the comforting chirp of birds, a reminder of days untouched by this burden. Jake's small face looked up at me, eyes wide with uncertainty yet shaded with trust. Mom, are we in trouble? He asked softly, the innocence of his question cutting through my resolve. I knelt to meet his gaze, my heart squeezing painfully. It's okay, buddy. Just a little adventure is all. We'll be okay. The lie sat heavy on my tongue. The truth was that I had never felt so adrift, the weight of a stranger's words mixing precariously with the urgent scream of a community that relied on me. How had I become so central to this narrative of power and danger? We rounded a corner, finding ourselves in the small alleyway behind a row of familiar shops. It was a forgotten part of the neighborhood, littered with torn scraps of paper and empty cans, yet I felt the stirrings of hope. Here, we could breathe, just a moment longer without the blades of anxiety slicing at our backs. Over there. Max pointed to a dormant flower shop, its windows dusty yet adorned with a few remnants of vibrant blooms hanging lifelessly inside. We can rest for a second, no one will find us here. Before I could respond, he was gently pushing the door open, the old bell chiming softly to announce our arrival. The scent of dried lavender punctuated the air, evoking memories of simpler days spent tending to my garden. It felt strangely comforting, mixing with the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The shopkeeper, an elderly woman with a knowing smile, emerged from the back. Her white hair framed her face, eyes deep with a kindness that melted a layer of tension from my shoulders. What brings you here in such a hurry? She asked, her voice soothing. I began, but Max interrupted, we're just taking a moment. It's been a long day. Of course, dear, she said without questioning further. Help yourself to some water. You look like you could use it. She turned toward a tiny kitchen area, and the sound of water filling a glass seemed to echo in the silence, grounding me. Jake stepped closer to me, peering at the floral displays. They're pretty, Mom, he said, a small smile breaking through the shadow of worry. Yeah, they are, I managed to reply even as a part of me lurked in the back of my mind, the urgency of our flight still palpable. The shopkeeper returned, handing me a glass with a warm smile. You take care of what's important, dear, she said, her gaze fixating on Jake. Children carry more than their weight. They hold our dreams. My throat tightened, her words wrapping around my heart. More than the quick escape, I yearned for the normality of dreams, the kind of light my son should feel, unburdened by the shadows lurking just out of sight. Thank you, I said, swallowing the water, letting it settle and ease the tight knot in my stomach. But as I glanced around, a shadow passed in front of the window, stark against the light, slicing through the moment of peace. My heart stopped. Max, I whispered urgently, jerking my head toward the shop's entrance. He turned toward the source of my alarm, spotting the silhouette of a man, sharply dressed yet ominous, peering through the glass. Shit! The curse slipped from his lips as he scrambled to shield us from view, an urgency igniting his movements. What do we do? I gasped, clutching Jake protectively against my side. Stay down, he commanded, voice low but fierce. I pushed Jake behind me, the warmth of his tiny body a fragile reassurance. Mom! He whimpered. Shh, I hushed him, heart pounding fiercely as the figure outside lingered. There was something both familiar and foreboding about the man, the way he surveyed the shop, searching moments stretched like an eternity as fear wrapped its fingers around us, chilling my skin. The shopkeeper moved quietly, pressing a finger to her lips, sharing in the silence with us as the distant sounds of the city faded, leaving just the thump of our breaths against the heavy air. But just as abruptly as the man had appeared, he turned and walked away, the warning echoing like a ghost in our ears. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I had been holding, the moment rife with uncertainty yet laced with an unyielding sense of purpose. What was that? Jake asked, eyes wide, innocent curiosity battling against the encroaching fear. I don't know, but we can't stay here, I replied, feeling a sudden fire ignite within my chest. We need to make a plan. Whatever this is, we must face it together. As I straightened, the shopkeeper watched me intently, her eyes dancing with something deeper, perhaps a recognition of the stakes. You're stronger than you think, Penny, she said softly but with unwavering conviction. Anything worth having is worth fighting for. I met her gaze, the thrum of possibility taking root as hope pierced through the uncertain haze. Whatever was coming wouldn't take away my resolve. In that moment, I vowed to protect my son, my community, and my future, even if it meant navigating the treacherous territories laid out before me. But the playground of unknowing was still full of shadows ready to pounce. Just as I turned to Max with a newfound determination swirling in my heart, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket. The screen lit up with an unknown number. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end. I answered, breath catching as a cold, smooth voice echoed on the other end. Penny, you're in deeper than you think. The clock is ticking, and I hold the key to your fate. We need to talk. The line clicked dead, leaving an eerie silence that swallowed me whole. My heart raced, leaving me teetering at the precipice of an unknown abyss, unwilling to retreat yet unsure of the path ahead. I needed to uncover the truths that lay buried beneath layers of lies and deceit. The stakes had just escalated, and there was no turning back now. The sunlight filtered through the dusty windows of the flower shop, casting soft patterns on the worn floorboards, but I felt nothing pleasant in its warmth. My heart raced against the silence left by that chilling voice, each pulse reminding me of the precarious position we were in. Who was that? Max's voice broke through my reverie, taut with tension. I don't know, I managed to say, my throat dry and thick. But they know who I am. The worry etched into Max's brow mirrored the gnawing anxiety in my gut. You need to get out of the city, Penny. If they know where you are, no. I want run. Not again. I can't leave Jake, I replied, each word punctuated with fierce determination. The older woman approached us once more, her eyes scrutinizing but kind. My dear, you'll need a place to stay. It might not be safe here for long. Her calm demeanor in the face of impending danger seemed almost foreign, but I clung to it like a life raft. But where? I have nowhere else to go, I said, feeling the sharp edge of desperation seep into my voice. There's a friend of mine, a few blocks down, she said thoughtfully. She's tough and has dealt with her share of trouble. I'll call her. Just trust me. As she moved away to make the call, I turned to Max, who was eyeing the window suspiciously. What if they come back? He asked, his tension palpable. I don't know, I replied, fighting to keep my voice steady, for Jake's sake. But we can't live in fear. I have to figure out who's behind this. If it's a trap, then we face it head on. Jake tugged on my sleeve, his small voice whispering, Mom, I'm scared. I knelt beside him and cupped his cheek in my palm. I know, love. But remember what we always say? Courage doesn't mean you're not afraid, it means you stand tall even with fear in your heart. He nodded, his innocent trust anchoring me amidst the storm of uncertainty swirling around us. Just as the shopkeeper returned, her face alight with new purpose, my phone buzzed again. This time, I hesitated but ultimately answered. Penny, a different voice spoke, interrupting any semblance of composure I had managed to muster. I have information about your past, things you don't know. My breath caught again, and I exchanged glances with Max, alarm filling the space between us. What does that mean? I asked, my pulse racing. It means your life is at risk because of choices made long before you were ever involved, the voice continued. Meet me at the address I'm about to send you. If you don't, things will get very complicated for you and your son. Why should I trust you? I demanded, fighting the rising tide of panic. Because I know the truth, Penny. And if you want to keep Jake safe, you need to listen to me. The line went dead, leaving an unsettling silence that vibrated with gravity. Penny? Max said, his expression taut with urgency yet laced with concern. What was that about? I don't know, I whispered, feeling the walls of the flower shop pressing in around me. The store filled with the sweet scent of flowers began to feel suffocating, like a prison rather than a sanctuary. But I can't ignore it. I have to find out what they know. Are you insane? You can't just walk into a trap, he argued, voice low as he cast anxious glances toward the door. I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of resolve I could muster for Jake's sake. I won't let fear dictate my choices. We'll have to be careful, but we can't turn back now. I'm not doing this alone. The shopkeeper returned, eyes sharp and glowing with something akin to bravery. The address I found isn't far. I'll drive you if you're willing. Are you sure it's safe? Max asked, protective instincts flaring. There's strength in numbers, she said wisely, fixing a resolute gaze on me. Trust that sometimes, the unexpected might lead to hope. As we moved to leave, I took hold of Jake's hand, his small fingers curling tightly around mine, grounding me amidst the chaos. We stepped out into the street, the city breathing around us once more, vibrant yet chaotic. But before I could take a step toward the car, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, eyes locked onto me with unsettling intensity. My heart dropped, dread coiling like a snake around my chest. Penny, the man said, his voice low and dripping with menace. It's time we had a little chat. With my heart in my throat, I felt Jake squeeze my hand tighter, our world teetering precariously on the edge of a knife. The danger was no longer an abstract notion, it was here, looming before us, and all I could think was how to protect my son amidst the uncertainty. As the stranger approached, a cascade of thoughts rushed through my mind, decisions to be made, truths to be uncovered, and shadows I had yet to face. The ground beneath us could shift at any moment, and the weight of the unknown pressed down heavily on my shoulders. Mom, who is that? Jake's voice trembled at my side. I turned to him, forcing a smile even as dread curled around my heart. Someone I need to talk to, buddy. Stay close. Every instinct screamed at me to run, yet I stood my ground, ready to confront whatever awaited me. Even as the storm strengthened, amidst the rising tide of fear, a flicker of stubborn hope ignited within me. Unbeknownst to everyone, I would fight tooth and nail for both of us. But in just one heartbeat, I realized that hope might also lead to revelations I wasn't prepared to face. The tension in the air was electric as the stranger loomed closer, his presence an oppressive weight that filled the quiet street. Shadows danced around him as the evening sun dimmed, casting an eerie glow across his sharp features. I could feel Jake's grip on my hand tightening, his small frame trembling beside me. Penny, the man said, his voice like gravel, you know who I am. I shook my head, my mind racing. No, I don't. What do you want? He stepped forward, and I instinctively shielded Jake behind me, every protective instinct firing at once. I'm not here to hurt you or your son, he said, his tone softening, but the menace still lurked beneath the surface. I just want to talk, To warn you, warn me? I scoffed, disbelief mingling with simmering anger. Why would I listen to you? Because, he replied, eyes boring into mine with an intensity that made my skin crawl, there are forces at play that you don't understand. Your refusal to back down will only escalate things. Who sent you? Max's voice broke through, demanding answers even as unease twisted in the pit of my stomach. The man ignored him, focusing solely on me. The organization is watching you. If you think you can just uncover your past without consequences, you're mistaken. They've already made their move, and you've put your son in jeopardy. I could feel my heart thudding heavily in my chest, the weight of his words settling over me. What do you mean? Who are they? I demanded, my voice a shaky whisper. Before he could respond, the shopkeeper rushed to my side, putting a hand on my shoulder. Let's not do this here, she urged, glancing nervously at the road behind us. There are safer places to talk. And just like that, caught between fear and instinct, I nodded, a small flicker of trust igniting in my chest for the stranger I didn't know yet was somehow bound to. Okay, I said, my voice steadier than my heart felt. But if this is a trap, it's not, he assured me, an understated urgency thickening his words. We can't waste time. Trust me. You need to know the truth. Reluctantly, I turned toward the shopkeeper, searching for reassurance. She nodded firmly, stepping into action as she led us toward her car, an old but sturdy-looking vehicle parked a short distance away. My resolve wavered under the tension, my instincts battling between staying close to Max and wanting to uncover what lay ahead. The stranger climbed into the back seat beside me, his scrutiny never leaving me. I felt Jake pull away slightly, his little fingers relaxing their hold. I shot him a quick glance, forcing a smile that felt more like a grimace. It's okay, sweetheart. Just stay close. As we sped away from the flower shop, the city blurred past the window, but my mind was far from the scenery. I couldn't focus with the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. What did you mean about my choices? I finally asked, breaking the unbearable silence that enveloped us. His gaze shifted to me, darkness lurking behind his eyes. You have a history, Peña's secret tied to your family. Your past is why they are after you now. My breath hitched as fear clawed at my throat. What secret? Why didn't my parents ever tell me? They thought you were safe, that the truth wouldn't matter. They didn't realize how intertwined everything was. He leaned closer, urgency leaping from his voice. Your father was part of something monumental, and it's coming back to haunt you. They'll stop at nothing to ensure their legacy isn't threatened. The world faded around us as I struggled to process his words. My heart sank as a frigid realization washed over me. My parents had always been overcautious about the dangers of the world, but I had thought it was just the usual overprotectiveness. How could they have kept this from me? And now it could cost me everything. Are you sure? I pressed, desperation creeping into my voice. What if you're lying? What if this is all just a way to manipulate me? He met my gaze head on. You need to believe me. It's not about me or even the past. It's about Jake and keeping him safe. Right now, your focus needs to be on protecting him. I nodded, swallowing back the rising tide of emotions. My world had already been shattered once, but now it felt as if splinters were digging deeper into my heart. The mistrust knotted within me, but the shadow of danger hanging over us kept my determination ignited. We pulled into an alley behind a nondescript building, the shopkeeper glancing around before motioning us to exit the car. In here, quickly, she urged, her voice low. As we entered, adrenaline churned in my veins, and suddenly I was confronted by walls adorned with framed photographs of past events, hidden spaces filled with memories that felt haunting. The atmosphere crackled with tension, every shadow a reminder of the unknown lurking just outside. Now, he said as soon as we were inside, urgency bleeding into his tone. You have to listen carefully. Yet just before he could divulge anymore, there was a sudden crash from outside, shattering the fragile calm. The noise was accompanied by shouts, and within moments, I could hear footsteps quickening their pace towards us. Penny! Max shouted, pulling me closer to him as dread coursed through my body. But the truth was, we were cornered. The past was crashing down around us, and I knew in that fleeting moment that nothing would be the same again. I had stepped into a web of deceit I could barely comprehend, and now we were trapped in its midst, facing dangers far more insidious than I had ever imagined. Panic surged as I realized there might be no escape from the storm that had finally found me. Fear wrapped around us like a noose, tightening with every breath. But as I clutched Jake's hand, I felt a flicker of resolve deep within. Whatever lay ahead, I would stand tall and shield my son no matter the cost. The noise outside intensified, a cacophony of hurried footsteps and muffled voices that threatened to drown out my thoughts. The stranger had gone pale, his earlier intensity replaced by anxiety as he bolted to the door, peering through a narrow window. "We need to move," he hissed, glancing over his shoulder. "They're looking for you, Penny." "We don't have much time." My heart pounded against my ribs, each thud a reminder of how precarious our situation was. I fought to keep my voice steady. "Who are they? Why are they after us?" Before he could answer, the shopkeeper turned to me, eyes wide with fear and urgency. "There's a back exit, but we have to act quickly. It's not just about you now, it's about keeping Jake safe." I refrained from acknowledging the chill that ran down my spine at her words. Jake, still clutching my hand tightly, looked up at me with wide, trusting eyes, oblivious to the gravity of our predicament. In that moment, I realized just how much I had taken for granted the simplicity of our life before this whirlwind had started. I couldn't allow fear to shatter that trust. "Not now, Mommy, where are we going?" Jake's small voice broke through the haze of my panic, and I knelt down to meet his gaze. "Just to a safe place, sweetheart. Stay close, okay?" I placed my hand on his cheek, hoping to reassure him even as the turmoil within me threatened to break free. The stranger gestured us towards a narrow hallway leading to a dim light at the end. "Stay low and keep quiet. We can slip out the back while they're busy in front." I felt an involuntary shudder run through me. I had witnessed countless movies where a brave mother protected her child, but now that it was my reality, the fear etched deep into my bones. Would I be strong enough? We moved as quickly and quietly as we could through the narrow corridor, my heart racing with every footstep. The dimly lit space felt both claustrophobic and ghostly, with shadows whispering all around us. I could hear the faint murmur of voices outside mingled with the sound of heavy footfalls getting closer, the tightening knot in my stomach reminding me that danger could spring at any moment. Suddenly, Jake stumbled, nearly tripping over a loose floorboard, and I felt time itself freeze. Guilt surged through me. Had my unwavering determination put him at risk? I caught him just in time, and we shared a glance filled with unspoken fears. "Sorry," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "It's okay, buddy. Just hold my hand tight," I murmured, squeezing his fingers firmly. My heart swelled with both love and guilt, wishing fervently to shield him from the harsh realities that loomed outside the door. We reached the back exit, the air heavier and more oppressive than anything I had faced before. The stranger hesitated, glancing back down the hall as if weighing our slim chances against the approaching chaos. "On the count of 3, he said, urgency lacing his voice. "Well, go." "Ready," I nodded, stealing a glance at Jake, who was eerily calm despite the storm around us. In that moment, I saw a reflection of my own determination mirrored in his innocent gaze. 1, 2, 3. We burst through the door into the cool night, the sudden rush of fresh air a stark contrast to the suffocating dread we left behind. I inhaled sharply, ready to run, but my breath hitched as I caught sight of 3 shadowy figures lurking near the end of the alley, their faces shrouded in the darkness, but their intent clear. "They're here," I gasped, pulling Jake close as icy realization gripped me once more. "They're not supposed to be this close," the stranger muttered, moving closer to us like a shield. "Mom, what's going on?" Jake whimpered, my heart breaking at the unsteadiness in his voice. Gritting my teeth, I fought to keep the panic from showing. These men were coming for us. My past was unfolding before me, unraveling at breakneck speed, and yet I had to protect my son. "We just need to keep moving, okay?" I whispered fiercely, renewing my hold on Jake's small hand. I could feel my pulse racing not just from the terror of the moment, but from the burgeoning realization that this was no ordinary confrontation. My life and Jake's was intertwined with forces I hadn't yet begun to comprehend. A peculiar kindness surged through me, a determination ignited not only by threat but also by the strange bond forming with the stranger beside me, someone who seemed more than willing to sacrifice for our safety. As we turned to dart in the opposite direction, a flash of light cut through the darkness, and in that split second, my heart stopped. "Penny!" A familiar voice called out, breaking the silence in a way that sliced through the fear gripping me. I turned, stunned and breathless as recognition washed over me. It couldn't be Mark? I cried out, heart pounding, hope and disbelief warring within me. But before I could grasp the nuance of his presence, the shadow surged forward, encroaching on our fragile escape, and the door to my past was thrust open wider than I ever expected to run. The stranger ordered, his voice barely reaching me as the figures moved closer. But my heart was already torn, ensnared by the unexpected twist. As Jake tugged at my hand, panic flooding his eyes, the scene felt surreal, one moment leading to another, the battle between safety and the beckoning of my forgotten past waging more fiercely than I could bear. With a trembling heart and courage faltering under the weight of uncertainty, I clutched Jake tighter and prepared to sprint into the night, knowing that whatever I was about to uncover might change everything in ways I had never imagined. The moments blurred together as we darted down the narrow alleyway, footsteps echoing around me like a haunting symphony of uncertainty and fear. Max was beside me, unwavering yet taut with tension, while Jake's small hand clutched mine like a lifeline, innocent trust glittering in his wide eyes. I glanced back at him, forcing a smile that felt like a fragile mask. I wished to shield him from the chaos, desperate to keep his world untainted, but reality gnawed at the corners of my resolve. Penny. Mark's voice broke through the haze of adrenaline, pulling at a memory stitched deep within my soul. I skidded to a halt, shock pinching my breath into a strangled gasp, as he emerged from the shadows, the man from my past standing before me like a phantom brought to life. "What are you doing here?" The words came out more breathless than I intended, the weight of emotions surging like a tidal wave. "That I had to find you," he said, his eyes darting to the darkening alley. "I heard you were in trouble." Every syllable was wrapped in earnestness, and for a fleeting second, I was transported back to simpler times, moments wrapped up in laughter and careless dreams. But those memories collided with harsh reality, the starkness of our circumstances anchoring me in the present. "Mark, I can't." My protest faltered as the shadows from behind me shifted ominously. "They're coming for us," I urged, glancing back at the encroaching figures. Jake whimpered beside me, the innocent sound of fear slicing through my vulnerability, and I felt something shift within me, a fierce, protective fire igniting. "Not if we stick together," Mark said, determination steaming in his gaze as he stepped closer, placing himself between me and the growing threat. The line between past and present blurred, intertwining our fates in a way that left my heart racing with both trepidation and a glimmer of hope. He was here, someone who understood me, someone who had once been a cornerstone of my world. Gathering my breath, I saw the shadows advancing, and I felt the light of courage flickering in my chest. "We need to move, now," I commanded, urgency coloring my voice, pushing past the emotional turmoil that threatened to overshadow my purpose. I tightened my grip on Jake's hand, reaffirming that he wouldn't slip from my side. As we sprinted through the alleys, Mark took the lead, weaving through the shadows with a confidence that resonated. My heart thudded in my ears, pounding with fear and hope as the echoes of our hurried breaths filled the night. With each sprint, I felt the weight of our present merging with the echoes of the past. A past I was ready to confront now, not just for myself, but for the one person who mattered most, my son. "Where are we going?" I gasped as we rounded the corner, glancing back as the darkness seemed to stretch after us, an ominous cloud following our every step. "To a safe house," Mark replied, glancing back at me with an intent that vibrated with reassurance. "I can explain everything once we're out of danger. Time is not on our side." I nodded, fortifying my resolve, knowing that whatever lay ahead I had to be ready, for Jake's sake. As we reached a small, hidden door embedded within the brick facade, my heart raced with uncertainty. I barely had time to register the shabby exterior before Mark yanked the door open, and we all tumbled into a dimly lit room. The air felt heavy with secrets, and as we huddled together, I could sense the palpable tension hovering around us. I steadied my breath, my gaze darting to the window, half expecting to see the malevolent shadows closing in. But what I needed now was clarity. "Mark, what's happening? What do you know about my family? Who are they?" My voice trembled barely above a whisper, underscoring the layers of confusion that tangled in my heart. Mark paced slightly, agitated, casting nervous glances at the door. "They will do anything to bury the truth, Penny. Your father's past entangles with a powerful group, a legacy of secrets meant to keep you and your mother safe, but it has now put you directly in their path. They are not just after your business. They want to erase you." His words fell like heavy stones, the truth suffocating in its weight. I flinched, the cold claws of betrayal gripping my heart. Why didn't my parents tell me? Why was I kept in the dark? The emotions surged like a maelstrom, pulling me under. Did they think I couldn't handle it? They thought they could protect you, Mark said, stepping closer, anguish flickering across his face. I was part of that world, too, Penny. I saw your father struggle, make decisions he thought would keep you safe. He wanted to keep you innocent, free from the burdens he carried. But you deserve to know the truth, no matter how dark it may seem. With each revelation, pieces of my shattered past began to fit together, a kaleidoscope of memories blending with harsh new truths. And what about Jake? I pleaded, the urgency uncoiling within me. If they're after me for my father's past, what will they do to him? Mark's eyes softened with understanding, the weight of my fears branding his heart too. That's why we need to act quickly. We can't let them take away your family's legacy, nor can we let them extinguish the light of the future. Jake's future. Jake tugged at my hand, his little voice stirring a mix of resolve and tenderness. Mom, I want to go home. My heart twisted painfully, every instinct screamed to shield him from this nightmare. I know, baby, but we're going to make things right. I promise. The shadows lurking outside created a storm within me. I grasped Jake tighter, feeling every heartbeat echo as if it were strumming the chords of my fear. What can we do? How do we fight back? Mark took a deep breath, the lines on his forehead etched with the weight of burden and determination. We gather allies, people who can help us, those who understand what's at stake. We need to take your truth back and use it to our advantage before they come for you first. This can be your chance to rewrite your family's narrative. For the first time, the flicker of hope deepened within me, kindled by the notion of reclaiming power I never knew I had. We would fight this together, not only for ourselves but for the community that believed in something more. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed outside the door we had entered, and I froze. Fear gripped my throat again as I turned to Mark, my heart pounding. What do we do? Stay quiet, he hissed, moving to the window and peering through the grimy glass. They're looking for you. We need to buy some time until it's safe. I knelt beside Jake, whispering reassurances, even as my own heart pounded a reckless rhythm against my ribcage. This was the end of fear-driven silence and the birth of a fight that was rightfully mine to embrace. Little did they know that I would rise from the ashes of the truth that had tried to keep me down. In that dim room, as we huddled, preparing to face whatever came through that door, I felt a sense of clarity unfurling within me. For the first time, I held the weight of the past and the hope for the future in one hand, as I connected with strength I possessed but had yet to fully recognize. And as the door creaked open, shadows spilling into the room, I stood taller, defiance swelling within me as I prepared to reclaim my identity and connect the pieces of a family history that could change everything. Whatever happened next, I would fight with everything I had for the memory of my parents and for Jake, to protect him from the specters of our past and move toward the light of our future. In this moment, I was ready to embrace my truth and pave the way for what lay ahead, unsheathing the power within me, a single mom determined to rise even amid the darkest of storms. Come at me, I'm ready, I whispered to the shadows, my heart echoing with fierce resolve.